of the Northeast called Culture of the Street. It's lovely to see so many of you here, and I hope you're going to enjoy the discussion that will follow and some readings that we organized for you this morning. Why we decided on today was also that we had been talking to Sharmila Rege of the Women's Studies Center for a number of years about this and about wanting to come to Pune, and she was really keen that we should collaborate with them and do this festival here. She's not with us, and we're really sorry and we really miss her, but we are happy that we finally managed to do this and to come to the Women's Studies Center. And I'd also like to say a huge thanks to them all, to the department, to Anika, to Swati, to everybody who's been most helpful in putting this thing together. It was for these reasons that we decided that we would also dedicate this festival to Sharmila Rege and also think about that other Sharmila in Manipur, the Iron Lady of Manipur, who is on fast for so many years, and think about both of them today and we dedicate this festival to them.
We are the Green Political Foundation from Germany, linked to the Greens, and we constitute as a foundation a body that does international work in the field of civic education, dialogue, and to some extent also support of projects of non-governmental organizations in the fields of democracy, women's rights, and of course core green issues like environment, sustainability, and so on. For us, the Northeast has always been, in the last years, really a strong focus in our work.
We have a very good panel, and I think an exceptional one, which will share their concerns, their thoughts, their views, their analysis and research. We are here to examine issues that resonate in the Northeast, but which are, for lack of a better idea or phrase, universally relevant. They echo across our country, across people who are far away, for they represent individual and collective concerns which reflect the lives of many people.
I'm very happy, of course, that the theme is bridge building, building bridges, because this reminds me of something that we started some years ago in various states, various cities of the Northeast with another organization, and I'm very glad that this work continues.
Good morning. I'm here as a writer of fiction, and at the outset I'd like to just clarify, why is fiction important in this context? I think this is one of the ways in which we as a society can come to understand ourselves. First of all, unless we understand ourselves, we cannot really search for a remedy. And I think creative writing, whether fiction or poetry or in whatever way, in fact creative endeavors, theatre, there's so much excellent theatre coming out from the region at this point. These things, they hold up a mirror to what's going around us, and in a way they supplement the kind of work that my other panelists have been doing so very well for the past so many years. Sonja mentioned the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. We have all read a lot about it. We have seen so many things that have been happening about it. We know what's happening. But one of the most powerful things stories that I read about it, and which brought the whole issue to life for me. This story, My Beloved Daughter, if I may read out a little bit, it's by Mem Chobi, a very highly regarded writer from Manipur. It's called My Beloved Daughter. And this is what happens when somebody is just lifted and you don't know what to do, the helplessness of the people. Turmoil fatigue, that tragedy fatigue, how much more can a region or how much more can people as a whole take? So it needs to have this kind of creative input, which I think and why is it that writings from the Northeast all the states together? Why is it that theatre, why is it that the music is creating such an impact? Because it takes the raw suffering, the raw injustice, the raw inhumanity of what is going on and uses it as that material. I think the strength comes from the rawness of the basic, the subjects of what is happening, and basically because all the writers, in some way or the other, we have all been affected.
How this kind of militarization impacts everyday life is something you have to witness to believe that people could still be resilient and continue and negotiate with their everyday life, whether you're a student, whether you're a woman, anybody, young and old. Every person in Kashmir, particularly men, are a suspect. They are suspected to be militants unless they prove that they are not. And how do you prove that you are not one? Women are suspected because they have husbands, brothers, sons, and whoever. And they are supposed to be harboring these militants. As somebody who has come from India and entered rest of India, I should say, and came into Kashmir, I realized what a fundamental change I went through, because it really shook me and I had to re-question, rethink everything from state to the army to the role of certain policies that are implemented. Because if these are our own people, then you don't treat them as you treat them now, worse than human beings and subhuman beings mean. So I'm going to tell you, 1989 the army arrives, and just a few figures to tell you that according to the government, it's 45,000 people dead. According to those who are working on the ground, it's anywhere between 80 to 1 lakh people who've already perished. Material destruction, we cannot even count, because towns and villages have been several times just burnt down because to flush out militants. And then you have disappearances, men who are just picked up and they are gone. And there are at least 8,000 to 9,000 men missing, affecting nearly 2 lakh families. And what happens, that's what I'm looking at. What happens to women who are left behind? How do they negotiate life? These are first generation workers, first generation women coming out to work, and they have to take on multiple roles to fill that gap where the man has disappeared. For years together, you won't know anything about it. Recently, there were these whole cases of mass graves, which State Human Rights Commission asked the government to look into. Anywhere else in the country, if you found mass graves, it would be a huge issue. What happens in rest of India, not a murmur. It might surprise you to know that students are not allowed to form an association or even have a students' union. Why? Because what if these are terrorists? What if they come and disrupt everything? How will we educate? But this education is disrupted, lives are disrupted. Lack of political will, and most importantly, what Sanjay talked about is the impunity that is given through the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, that unless the government sanctions prosecution, none of these accused, despite evidence, will ever be tried or justice ever be given to these people who deserve it more than anything else.
I guess you are aware about this case which happened in 2006. During that time, Buddhists in Maharashtra were celebrating 50 years of Dhamma revolution, and during the same day, a Buddhist family 60 kilometers away from that celebration were paraded naked, raped and killed. The daughter, mother and their 2 sons, one of the son was blind, he was brutally killed over there by cascading his genitals. This is the sorry for this picture, but this is what the shanty house where they were living. And one of the daughter was the bride student from that village. She was an NCC cadet. She was the first among the village to pursue the education, and that was a horrifying night for all of them. Now we are trying to document all of the cases throughout India where from fact finding till trial, not only those cases will be documented, and I appeal to all of you to visit that site and also to write back to us if you found any flaws or if you. And also what we are trying to do, we are trying to make use of mobile so that those human rights organizations who are working on that particular case and registered as a registered user, and following that case, this web application will trigger an alerts to all those institutional mechanisms if they are not following the rules according to Prevention of Atrocities Act. Say for example, according to the rule, DSP has to do the investigation. If DSP is not doing the investigation, then the human rights defender or the organization who is following that case can generate an alert. That alert goes to Superintendent of Police, that alert goes to District Magistrate, that alert goes to all other human rights organizations who are registered over in that particular case.
I myself, on 4th November 2008, I was having a lunch together with my husband, and after some time my husband was in the local with his friend, and after some time in the afternoon he called me in the phone and told me that he was apprehended and informed the SP to secure his release. So what happened? We went, my family members went to the police station, asked about his whereabouts. In the very day itself, in the 9 local news network, I saw my dead husband's body with a hand grenade placed next to him. And after that, the SI who the SI go to the police station and give the FIR himself. No investigating officer, no. So everything is happening in Manipur. So many fake encounters happen. So in every day there are 2 or 3 killings in the newspaper headlines. There is the case of one student, 14 years. He is a student and he was reading newspaper in the veranda in his very home. The police came to his home. He was dragged all the way to the front of the courtyard and killed there before his family's eyes. And then also he was, they were blaming him as some terrorist. I fought an uphill battle for 4 years for my husband's name to be cleared. So these things happen particularly in the northeast and Kashmir of India, where the Armed Forces Special Powers Act is in operation.
We talk a lot about the Armed Forces Special Powers Act and the Human Rights Movement, and we do it because it is just such an egregious law, such a symbol of hate now, because it's become it represents so much of people getting away with murder, literally. But there is involuntary. And I think when we talk about, to go back to basics, if we are here to talk about peace, then we have to address the violence, because we wouldn't be talking peace if there wasn't violence. So let's talk about violence first. Why does it exist, and why do these conflicts exist? And unfortunately, we find that in most cases, a violent armed rebellion, armed repression of UGs in Manipur, or any of these groups, the Maoists, the militants in Kashmir, at which point do they choose to take up guns? There has to be a moment.